Hello and thanks for checking out ChartGuys.com. We're proud to be one of the most successful technical analysis communities online, teaching you the skills to become a more confident, effective, and informed trader. Join our community of hundreds of analysts worldwide working together to learn the charts, generate profit, and achieve financial independence. For access to daily live chart analysis and market coverage, a thriving chat community, along with dozens of hours of exclusive educational materials. We look forward to seeing you. Let's check out some charts. Hey everyone, checking in on the MJ space. Didn't do a video yesterday as Canada was closed on Monday, so just waited until we saw the real volume kick back in as to where prices would settle around. After hours here, GWPH, a leader in the USMJ space, is reporting earnings. They're up about 10-12%, and they had about $68 million in sales of Epidiolex. I think that's how you pronounce it. I've never said it before, but that is their product that is derived from marijuana. And that is why it is a part of the sector. So we'll see if that has any impact. I think it's more important to see what we get from earnings from the other major names, TLRY, ACB. We had ACB news today as far as forward looking to Q4. But the clear shift is on in the USMJ space, and we've seen that now slowly building for the last week. The falling wedges on the daily time frame are patterns that show bear exhaustion. And now we're seeing some bounces follow through. And there's a lot of USMJ names where we're starting to say we haven't seen this happen for 3 or 4 months. And that's because we've been in a 3 or 4 month pullback and we're getting shifts in technicals. The Canadian MJ space still is very weak and the bulls still have a lot of proving to do. And I'm looking specifically at CGC, CRON, TLRY, and even ACB, OGI. I mean, there's so many names that still have a lot of proving to do. And right now, the USMJ sector, if we're looking just in the last 2 weeks, it's stronger than the Canadian MJ sector. We'll see how long that keeps up. The S&P 500 is still teetering a little bit. It bounced today. I'm not convinced that the bloodshed is over for now. I need another green day for the bulls to breathe a sigh of relief. So tomorrow will be important, but I'll talk about that more in the market video that I'm going to do shortly after this one. So CGC is a daily bear flag possible. And most Canadian MJ names started strong this morning as the S&P 500 had a higher open, but they faded and saw profit taking. And for CGC, anything under 36.31 is a daily lower high. And even with the strong start this morning, that's 10% away. So anything under that 10% move is just a daily lower high. Daily exponential resistance has been rejecting the price for over a month at this point, and we pulled back just under that level. So if we were to see a bear break of hourly support, if tomorrow we were to drop down and break 32.02, that would be a red flag that would increase the odds of a daily bear flag. I am looking for a longer-term CGC position in a different account that I'm just not going to touch, but I'm being very patient. I've been working on my USMJ positions over the last month, and now shifting focus to CGC as really the last one that I want to get a piece of longer term, but I'm not ready just yet because the bulls aren't proving anything to me. So hourly supports to be watching, but still just going to be looking for, even if we have a green day tomorrow and break the high of today, we're still just looking for a daily lower high compared to 36.31. We haven't changed the daily trend since we topped out in April. So we have 3 months of a daily downtrend, and until that changes, the bears have complete control. CRON, same thing, fairly weak bounce. Bulls have a little bit of space to work with. They're going to have to hold 1270 if we do top out and start to pull back. They'll have to hold 1270 and break 1421. But again, 1569 was our last lower high, and this bounce is not convincing. Daily trend changes are needed. ACB, gap up open on news, big upper wick of profit taking. At this point, just like everybody else, a daily trend change is needed with a higher low and then continuation. But what we're going to be watching is a potential inverse head and shoulders pattern where we have the left side of resistance. The neckline is at 746. We topped out at 720. If we lose the hourly uptrend and have to form a daily higher low, bulls breaking both of those levels would be the daily shift that we're looking for. But first things first, have we topped out? And the answer is not yet. If we fail to break 720 tomorrow morning, the most important support level for me is 661. That's the range. And looking at it on the 15-minute time frame, high of the day, low of the pullback, and then a slow grind up. So 661 and 720 is the most important range. Break 661 and daily consolidation to find a higher low will be underway. APHA, bull start to the day, but gave a lot of it back. Again, tons of profit taking. And just like that, we dropped 10% in 45 minutes. That's very notable. The hourly time frame is in a tightening range. High, low, lower high was 732. Higher low trying to form at 711. So bulls still in control. We have a higher low every day since the reaction to earnings. When that pattern breaks, we're going to look for the higher low on the daily, keeping in mind that as I'm being skeptical of every single Canadian MJ bull that is still in a daily downtrend, APHA falls in that category. We're not in a daily downtrend, but we are not in a daily uptrend. Until we set that clear higher low of consolidation and then see continuation, I'm going to be a bit cautious. I do definitely expect a daily higher low will form once we do top out. The question after that is, can the follow through take place to higher highs? TLRY. Big upper wick in line with everybody else. Anything under 45.48 is just a lower high. So if we top out under that level, the bulls will have to form a higher low compared to 39.31 and change the daily trend. That daily trend change would tell us that our weekly higher low is very clearly established, and we'd then be looking back up at 51.03. But with earnings approaching next week, it's going to pretty much be up to earnings as to whether 51.03 can break or whether we lose support of 39.31. Certainly much closer to support breaking than we are to resistance breaking at this point. Earnings is going to dictate which happens pretty much. OGI still weak. Anything under 606 is just a lower high. Only support is 550 and 540 before we see another leg down. Struggling to shift momentum. Clear daily lower highs ever since 731. And again, we were skeptical back here. And this is why I'm still skeptical on names like ACB and APHA that just saw a significant bull move. We saw this move of 20% and that just gave it all back. So until we get follow through and continuation, be skeptical of the Canadian MJ bulls. Hexo, right on the verge. We broke resistance again, but just not a lot of follow through. We broke it by 4 pennies. The daily exponential resistance still right here. Bulls need a clear move over 450 because right now this little daily trend change with a lack of follow through is opening the door for a potential weekly bear flag. If the bulls can see some significant shift and significant follow through up towards $5, it will be notable, but still some proving to do. And again, 2 green days in a row. Give me that. When's the last time Hexo had 2 green days in a row? The answer is mid-June, and that is 7 weeks ago. 7 weeks without 2 green days in a row is astounding. CTST still weak for good reason. 247 is resistance. Support is down at 196 and 187. If we break 247 and get over the daily exponential resistances, then we'll be paying attention to the shift to the bulls. But as long as 247 is resistance, bulls have nothing going for them. VFF continues to stand out in the Canadian MJ space, but this $12 level is a brick wall. And we've broken this level 4 times in the last 5 days, and we can't close above it. So the most important daily support is 11. Resistance is 12.19. Then we're looking up at 12.49. But again, just not convincing. And we need to close over $12. Keeping in mind that if we lose the daily uptrend, we'll be looking for the weekly chart to have to change the trend with a higher low and higher high. So daily uptrend being lost. And this is where it's going to be tricky for a lot of people in the sector who maybe aren't familiar with technical analysis, but we're going to have to stomach sitting through a here we go again moment. And what I mean by that is when we see our big bull move, which we are seeing on individual names like on some, like VFF, we're going to have to set weekly lower highs, and we know that. So even when we change the daily trend on CGC, we're going to zoom out to the weekly chart, and anything under 44.17 is a weekly lower high. And again, TLRY already did it. We had a significant bull move, and it's sitting through the weekly consolidation to try and form a higher low that's going to be the hard thing for bulls to do. Because you have to essentially lose the daily uptrend to set a weekly higher low and try and change the longer term time frame. But it's going to feel like here we go again. Did we just lose all that bull momentum? Are we headed back to the lows? That's the psychological battle that's going to go on inside our heads. And we have to ensure we have a game plan. And of course, being familiar with what it takes to change weekly trends can certainly help with being able to stomach the pullback required. And again, CWeb, which we'll look at real quick here before we get into the US side. But CWeb on the weekly time frame, this is exactly what I'm talking about. From the high of the bull move, we pulled back 27%. So bulls, longer term bulls, had to sit through watching significant bounce and all that euphoria and saying, yes, I just made a significant amount of money and I was right and the bulls are showing up and the weakness is over. And we saw significant gains, but then they had to sit through a 27% pullback in order to benefit from the continuation. So the question to ask yourself is, are you going to be able to stomach a 15 to 25% pullback to try and form a weekly higher low on whatever name we're talking about? So T-God, resistance is up at 330. We got up to 330 and double topped. And if we see a break of 313 support, we're going to have to form a daily higher low compared to 282 and then break the 330 double top for the significant shift in momentum for T-God to follow through. Remember how we pointed out how T-God's falling wedge was similar to USMJ? And now the shift that's going on for USMJ being seen in T-God up 25% from the lows. And again, same thing. We look at the weekly chart and we're going to look for a weekly lower high to be set. Weekly longer term trend changes into the fall is what the bulls are looking for a real sentiment shift and a move out of the summer lulls into the fall and winter potential hype. So labs over the weekend, we said keep an eye on labs this week. The reason being we felt the sentiment shift, and this is a very healthy consolidation pattern after a big bull move. And the fact that we stayed that tight made it very clear where if we can break resistance of 559, 562, 565, that's the go signal. And even if you waited for the last resistance level to be a bit more cautious, 566 was in there as well. From 566 to 591, that is 25 cents. And that is about 4 or 5%. And a strong close at the high of the day. So if the bulls can break 591, $6 is resistance. And then 634. But nice continuation. Daily higher low is 507. We now have the daily higher high. And a lack of resistance as we're looking back up to the all-time high. Certainly don't expect to head back to that all-time high too quickly, but a nice break of a multiple week range. Cureleaf. So I did a little shopping today. I added to Cureleaf weakness and TRUL weakness. Reason being, as I've talked about over the last week, I was scaling in looking for the daily higher low and only one of my orders filled. So I just topped those off a little bit today and get to a more round number of shares that I like. We're looking for a higher low compared to 897, but the bulls have to change the hourly trend before we're confident our daily higher low has been established. So on the hourly chart, low of the dump on Monday, high of the bounce, 1009, and the bulls are trying to form a higher low and break 1009 to change the hourly trend, and that would be the first hourly trend change since our top at 1080, and that would be the indication our daily higher low has formed, and we will look for this equilibrium to probably play out into next week. Scouting that higher low, not confident it's set yet, but we're looking for it. IAN, notable bull. This is my largest USMJ position. And again, talking about first time, 4-hour bull cross of the 12 and 26 period, first time in 4 months that's happened. Notable volume, notable shift in momentum, breaking key resistance 391 and 395, both of those levels breaking today. And now we're looking at the potential of a daily exponential cross for the first time since back in January. 8 months. Next resistance is 447, but again, just as I said, the daily change in trend and the shift in momentum is great. The gains are awesome, but looking at the weekly chart, we know we're going to form a lower high. Can you stomach the consolidation to form a weekly higher low and then see a potential trend change? So we haven't topped out yet. The further we go before topping out, the more space the bulls have to work with. I'm watching the weekly exponential resistance, which is approaching. And I may play around with some of my position in the sense of, shedding 25% and then reloading it cheaper, depending on how overextended we do get. And we have short-term support. Didn't establish a clear hourly higher low today. If I had to pick a level, it would be 406. But I would pretty much say that any consolidation we see from here, we're going to look for an hourly higher low to form. So that was a notable winner today. And again, one more time on these falling wedges that we were keeping an eye on. Bearish exhaustion patterns It followed through for Curaleaf, thanks to news. It's followed through now for a number of other names. MRMD was another one. So MRMD got the bull break. Keep an eye on MRMD. I'm not playing it because it's low volume. But inverse head and shoulders on the daily time frame. We topped out under $2 resistance at 193. Healthy low bear volume consolidation, looking for a higher low. And then a break of $2 would be a very notable shift in momentum, as we're seeing the sector do, but not really in unison. It's almost a one-by-one kind of deal. CWeb, profit taking today, not surprising after the big bull day for the US side of things. This being this extended and seeing a gap up open in Canada, definitely going to look for profit taking. There was a very nice bounce off of the lows. I tried playing some of the oversold bounce, got in a little bit too early, ended up exiting just about break even. But we're going to look for an hourly equilibrium. High of 30.10, low of 25.80, lower high of 28.05, and we're scouting a higher low compared to 25.80. If we lose this, if we break this tightening range bearish, daily consolidation is underway, and we'll look for a daily higher low to form, keeping in mind how close we are to that all-time high. Any shift in momentum for the sector as a whole, which again we're seeing more on an individual basis as opposed to everybody's running, which we've seen in the past but not seeing this time. But CWeb, I mean, considering that this move is coming off of no political changes or anything like that, pretty much none of the major catalysts that we're looking at have happened. So CWeb is poised very well for all-time highs when we do see some of those catalysts. TRUL, so I entered on some weakness today. As I entered initially, didn't get 2 positions, only 1, so I added to it. Did see a big sell-off this morning, but bulls bought that dip significantly and got a double top at the end of the day. So we're watching that double top. If we reject first thing tomorrow, we're going to look for an hourly higher low to form and a tightening range. And if we can break that double top, 1462 is key resistance. Again, daily trend is changing. Now we're looking at follow through, and then we'll look for a weekly lower high. But the daily momentum is shifting one by one. IAN is up about 30% off its low. TRUL, 22%. OH, still very tight, and it's a question that's going to be answered tomorrow. Is it just a 4-hour equilibrium where we have our low, high of the bounce, higher low, and if we can't break 758, I'd say if we can't break it tomorrow, we'll probably be in a 4-hour equilibrium where we will look for a lower high compared to 758, and then we'll have to pull back for a higher low compared to 675. If we do break 758, that's the daily trend change and getting over the daily exponential resistance for the first time in a long time, and that would be a sentiment shift, or I should say a momentum shift as well. But as of right now, we don't have the daily trend change yet. Again, my positions, IAN, OH, TRUL, CURA. I think that's it. And certainly not married to any of them. My account hit all-time highs today, so it's a good day thanks to IAN, but I'm going to keep that account near those all-time highs. I'm not going to sit through 25% of a pullback on those positions. So just sharing my game plan, absolutely looking to ride these out longer term. But also, if I didn't make another dollar on MJ this year, I'm a happy camper. Just don't want to give much of that back. So I appreciate you watching. Don't have any end of the day content here. So we'll go back to 11 years ago, road tripping, coast of California, Highway 1 camping, and a cool spot there. And I'll see you all tomorrow. Have a good rest of your day.